My favorite Kids in the Hall sketch was Girly Drink Drunk.
Where do you think I got that from?
I just love when he's like, I'm getting paper clips. He's like blender noises.
Is that the precursor to White Girl Wasted?
Kinda,
Yes.
yeah.
When we used to go see the guys at Crescent Lounge, Jesse would buy them a round of Cosmopolitan.
Cosmos.
Oh, yeah.
And they would get totally
wasted
anytime, off the
Cosmos.
Cosmos.
Just came out. You know the guys were going to be
wasted.
just
Yeah.
smashed.
The Crescent Lounge that is now a dispensary called Heisenberg
Oh, that's
Wow.
good.
that has a
Interesting.
loyalty program.
Hey,
That's where we live now.
They all have loyalty
We need
programs.
loyalty programs.
I get texts from like a dispensary in Seattle about their loyalty programs, and I'm like, I need to get off this text.
You never know when you'll be back.
It's true.
It's true. I mean, they know you're coming back. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get this pack of gummy bears and never come back.
And never
again.
return.
never return.
Yeah. It's weird how there's still like the kind of dirtbag ones that are kind of everywhere. And then there's like the really high end, like, ooh, it's an experience. You come in and they're like, let me show you you have your own like
Like a
sommelier.
humidor for the joints.
Yeah. It's like,
Well,
They have
oh,
a nice
all
warm compress for your eyes to put on while you're
Mhm.
waiting. Cucumber slices.
You can buy like local art from local artists.
I still say, give me that repurposed warehouse with the disaffected 20-something. It's like, yeah, man, what do you want?
No, I like it to be like the
How
Apple
far?
Store.
How far pop has come?
Yeah.
So bougie now.
I appreciate how friendly all of them are. Like the dispensary people are the friendliest customer service people I've ever met.
I wonder why.
It's like a Chick-fil-A, but not terrible.
I wonder why.
Yeah, it's one of those jobs. It's like when you go to the courthouse on the wedding side, like everybody there is happy. It's like the happy version of
Mhm.
bureaucracy because you're waiting, but you're getting married. You're waiting in this line. You're gonna get weed. So there you go.
And in both places, like you have to show an ID like 40 different times.
Oh, yeah.
And people are dressed funny.
Yeah.
We have not found a good way to segue at all.
No,
I was
I was gonna
like
like pull my sweatshirt off my shoulders.
I
Like,
was asking Helen, I was like, should the ladies all go braless for this episode?
No, okay. What we should all do is who can take their bra off the most subtly.
I was like,
We all can.
Yeah.
That
I'm
is a
wearing a sports
basic
bra.
skill.
I can't. Like it would be a whole thing.
Basic
Well-
skill that you learn as a child.
Well,
when
yeah.
I
you're-
don't know about child.
But like to do my sports bra, it would have to come off the bottom, which is really a lot less sexy than like pulling it out of
Yep.
sleeve. Like I would be shimmying my sports bra over my
it's not,
ass.
this is not an easy shirt to do it, and it's very
Yeah, you really need the baggy sweater.
Excuses,
to kind of pull that
excuses.
and then we'd
Um,
be leaving Randall out.
No, I got a pretty baggy
I mean,
sweater
Randall
on.
lives with Bryce. He can borrow one.
It's true. They're all in that thing in the corner.
I mean, that's about as good of a segue as we're gonna get. So
Speaking of uncomfortable segues,
yeah, uncomfortable segues. Man, there are a lot in this movie.
Ooh,
Uh,
my goodness.
Welcome to You're No Fun Anymore, the podcast where we deal with our nostalgia. I'm Randall,
I'm Dana.
I'm Bryce.
I'm Alexandra.
I'm Helen.
and grab your ponchos and
You're punched.
never look at lobster the same way again,
Cool.
because we are going to talk about 1983's Flashdance, or Twerking Girl.
Nice.
Real good.
Yeah.
But it's not really twerking so
No,
much. It's like
it's-
avant-garde.
20, 30
like-
years before twerking.
No one has an ass in this movie. No one.
That's what
It's
I
the
said.
80s,
That's what I said,
Bryce.
Bryce. And I was like, she would have a better ass.
We're
if she
lucky-
was-
Asses were not in the
No,
80s.
everyone has a long back.
No,
Yeah.
but we're lucky that we don't get complete 80s pancake ass because that's
yeah.
what the style was. Lucky we get
I
some.
mean, I
kind.
was very self-conscious about my butt all the way through childhood because of movies like this. Now, all good.
Oh, good.
How do you even get an ass that like that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
There's,
didn't
well,
listen- like
let's not judge other people's
I'm
Right.
not judging. I am legitimately asking, like, what do
This
you
was
have
really-
to do?
I think it was
to
the
get an ass that flat?
pre-squat
Genetics.
era. I think it was before people knew that like squats give you junk in the trunk.
Sure.
yeah.
I think it's a very specific body type that was very popular in the 80s.
Right. And it's not like everybody had it. It's like
No.
this is the one they showcased.
And it was who they would cast.
Yeah.
Also, it's the type of clothing because sometimes
Those
even
high-
if
God, those high waist, those high like cut.
Thigh, cut
Everything?
thigh.
No matter what else I say about this movie over the course of this podcast, Thank you, Jennifer Beals, for creating the off-the-shoulder sweatshirt. I
That's
live
so
by those
cute.
things to this day.
Absolutely.
He has the best outfits the entire movie.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. I did have a couple alternates for this. The sopping point,
Uh-huh.
and the toe tape of water. Because
Mm.
holy Christ, why is this movie so wet?
It's so wet. It's
That's
really
what
wet.
she said.
Even when she's welding, did you
Do it.
notice?
Yeah, she like
When she's welding, there's like a
It's
wall
like a cascade of water.
behind her. Everything's so
The-
wet.
Randall
And
was
it is-
talking
it is
about.
fucking Pittsburgh, which basically I think
Oh yeah,
is
Pittsburgh.
just
It's
like,
like
a
inside of a
sopping
cave.
mess, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
big industrial sopping mess. I'm sorry to anybody from Pittsburgh. I think we probably know a couple people from Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, I actually like. I like how like they use a lot of the locations there.
Yeah,
That's at
Carnegie
the
Museum.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Carnegie Museum
Yeah.
that she runs through.
Yep.
There's a lot of like those iconic things. You get the what is that
Funicular.
yeah that stairway elevator thing, and I was like, oh, that's really
Funicular.
cool. Yeah.
Pittsburgh is actually one of the East Coast cities that I've never been to.
Oh really?
I want to
I
go
love
to Pittsburgh.
I
I've
don't
never
think
been.
I've ever been to Pittsburgh.
I've been meaning to go because
Pittsburgh's
the
great.
Carnegie Museum has a big
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
every 5 years exhibition, the Carnegie International. And I always
What
meant to
is
go.
that? Pentennial?
Quintennial, I think.
I think
Sure.
that's it.
I mean, at that point, 5 years is just a better phrase.
Yeah, every 5 years.
You walk out there, and the music starts, and you feel it. Your body just moves. There's something inside of you that just clicks, and you're gone. It's like you're somebody else for a while.
Her name is Alex. She works in a man's world. She dances in a world of her dreams. Flashdance. Flashdance. If a dream comes true just one time, it can change your life for all time.
Content warning. This selected film may contain scenes depicting the following: sexual assault, physical violence, brief nudity, mild eroticism, homophobic and ableist remarks, racist humor, language, drinking, stalking, emotional abuse, numerous OSHA violations, inexplicable wetness, painfully abandoned proper character development, confounding academic structures, questionable shellfish consumption, and smoking. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Okay, but can I say one more thing about the
Yeah,
leotard?
totally.
Look, either everybody's getting waxed or everybody is hiding razor burn immaculately.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
this was
Oh,
the
I-
The
age
highest
of Nair.
wage- it-
Christ, do you forget
Yeah.
what the 80s
Oh
were?
god, that stuff. I can
Oh my
still
God,
smell
the
that.
burning, the burning, the burning.
I tried Nair once. It was a terrible,
Did you
terrible
try?
mistake.
Okay.
Smells awful.
Everybody was
Terrible.
like,
Forgive the rhyme. Did you try Nair down there?
yes.
I did not.
Mm.
I tried it on my legs. I wasn't that brave, and my God, did it hurt.
I used it once on my bikini line and I was like, what have I done to myself?
Yeah,
And from then on, I just used the Nair as a drain cleaner because I was like, this is like
not just the
Toxic.
burning, but the smell.
the smell was bad.
Oh,
it smells awful.
Rashes. Oh, it was bad.
I haven't seen this in so long.
So long.
But
I realized I've never seen it all the way through.
really,
I had never seen it.
Really?
Dana, so you're close
I
to
thought I had. I've only seen pieces of it. This was the first time I've watched the whole thing.
I mean,
Oh.
the whole movie is kind of like pieces of a movie.
Yes.
yeah.
It really
Exactly.
is.
It's like a whole bunch of interpretive dance.
There
and-
were times that I went to Helen and I was like, what is this movie exactly? Like, what is
Series of montage.
What is
this movie?
happening?
What is happening?
Scenes of
What-
it's scenes of an exotic dancer. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, what is everybody's favorite
It's a
montage
very problematic boss.
music number? 1, 2, 3, share.
The last one is my favorite.
Oh, the audition.
Oh, her dancers, her dance.
The audition.
the
I love the
audition's great.
first one, the shower.
the first one? Is
Oh yeah,
Really front load this movie, don't they? Like
I love Manhunt.
yeah.
I'm dark horsing it.
I-
Manhunt.
So Manhunt was the point when I realized I was like, wait a second, this is a movie about strippers, but nobody's going to take their clothes off.
nope.
Well, because
That was when I caught on to that.
honestly,
It's technically not an exotic dance club. It's a
just a
bar
bar.
and grill
It's like
with
a
a
blue
cabaret
collar-
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl.
That's
Then
what.
why is she supposed to be ashamed? Because they make it very clear that what
Well,
she's doing is not.
I think where Jeannie goes, that's
Well, yeah,
what,
when Jeannie goes to the other place,
Oh,
that's when it's clear this
You
is
mean
not.
Sex Assault RS?
Yeah, there's a lot of like sex work
Fuck
shaming.
RS, yeah.
But it's just like it's weird because like this kind of erotic dancing is okay.
Yeah.
That one is not.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
I figured it was always kind of like the levels of the Gap, right? There's like Old Navy, the Gap, and Banana Republic, and like dance bars.
It's different
is Old
tiers.
Navy.
Well, but also
Yeah.
like burlesque dancers I know have more agency over their choices in their career than
Yeah.
women who are like stuck in shitty situations based on like employment and contracting in exotic dance clubs.
it also kind of seemed like the owners of those different venues.
Oh
were-
yeah, Johnny C. Johnny C was a complete,
Johnny C
like,
was a scumbag.
Total scumbag.
yeah, he's an absolute gross
And
human
it
being.
seemed like Jeannie, when she was working there, was
drugged
drugged out of her
mind.
mind, and that he had possibly done that to her. You
Well,
know?
you mean Rapey McRaperston?
Yeah,
Who,
totally.
like who had no
Yeah.
repercussions from trying to sexually assault. Anyway,
Oh no, he got thrown on the dance floor and then like
no, but no, like nobody barred him from the bar. Nobody like nobody gave a shit. Anyway,
I think-
we're
I
jumping
think it's
ahead,
also-
and
No,
I
we are
still don't
jumping
know what montage Alex and Randall like the best.
Oh.
Yeah, what's your favorite montage?
Oh, I don't know.
What dance?
This is the movie Alex didn't like.
Yeah,
This
pick-
one.
No,
With the
I don't mind
joyful
it. I
dancing?
didn't mind it. The one that I liked,
She was more befuddled.
I was
rather
more
than-
confused.
it is a very strange.
Do you like the exercise
Um,
montage?
I think the really weird, super big 80s
Oh,
outfit with
yes.
the weird face mask that she's got on,
Yeah, the
like
David
the weird,
Bird one. David
Yeah.
Bird.
Oh yeah,
where
the
she's in front of
corner,
the TV
the strobe,
screen.
the s-
Yeah.
yeah, that's the TV and the strobe lights and
The very Klaus.
Or like
Clayton
mime
kind of
mask?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Randall?
I mean, it's probably because I just used to watch that music video all the time, and it's not really a music video. They just clipped the scene from Maniac and played it on a loop on MTV for like months.
But they like this movie that you get Maniac right out the door, like at
Yeah.
the front of the movie. You get the splashdown in like the
Yeah,
first
the title
5
sequence.
minutes.
Oh yeah,
minutes.
this
Yeah.
is and we'll talk about this a little bit more because we do have to set up the year on this. But this is Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer's first foray out of the gate as producers, and man, does it show! I mean, I've heard people compare this thing to like a lot of their other films, and it kind of makes sense. Where it's just like, oh yeah, all right,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Can I, before you set up the year, I have one question specifically for Alex.
Yeah.
During the exercise montage, when she was struggling with the 5-pound weights, did you also scream at the television? They're only 5 pounds.
No, because I remember when I used to not be able to do 5 pounds, and granted, I was a lot heavier, but it was rough.
Oh, come on. She
Also,
was
she's a dancer.
But
She's a
also,
dancer.
but also, I was like, oh my god, she's like doing her stretching so herky jerky, like she's.
And Helen was like,
I was like, she needs to calm down, or she's gonna
Well,
pull.
I
her
mean-
down.
I was
Break
like, and I
something.
was like, no, she needs to do dynamic warm up before she starts actually dancing.
Jennifer Beals was
Yeah.
not the one who was super graceful and
Yeah.
True.
dancing. That was definitely not her.
Oh my
No,
god!
there
No,
was-
let's get into the year because I have so many. thoughts on the date,
Yeah, same.
and I want to have like a whole chunk of time
oh
to
yeah,
talk about the body double.
yeah. It's really hard in HD to go oh. But the year is 1983. I have to start off with saying this was the year of Michael
I
Jackson.
wasn't born yet.
Because even though Thriller came out the November of the previous year, this was the year it actually would hit number one. And it spent 37 non-consecutive weeks at number one this year. This was also the year where Motown 25th anniversary special, he performed the show-stopping iconic backslide dance move that the world would forever know from that point on as the moonwalk, which actually has a little feature in this
A
one.
little cameo in
Yeah.
this, yeah, in this.
It's got
breakdancing
one of the
scenes.
dancers doing in the break. Yeah. Reagan, President Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, just spit that out.
It always gets stuck in the back of my
Bad
throat
mouth
because
feel,
I
yeah.
immediately want to go, well, but yeah, so President Reagan doubles steel tariffs in an effort to halt the import of foreign steel for the next 4 years in an attempt to bolster the hemorrhaging U.S. steel industry, which has been on a 10-year slide downward from its peak in 1973. While unemployment was still overall high because this was in the middle of the first Reagan recession, this is the most severe recession since World War II, peaking at nearly 11% in December of the previous year. it was particularly hard felt in places like Pittsburgh, where this year alone would see its unemployment rate at over 17%. And that was its peak. It really devastated a lot of these areas. Singing virtuoso and drumming goddess Karen Carpenter would be pronounced dead at Downing Community Hospital at just 32 years of age. After years of dealing with anorexia and eating disorders, she was called, quote, one of the greatest voices of our lifetime by Elton John. She has been cited as influence from people from Madonna to Sonic Youth's Kim Gordon, and over 1,000 people attended her funeral services, including Dionne Warwick. I believe they were friends, Dorothy Hamill, Olivia Newton-John, and many, many more. The America's Cup is the oldest continuous sporting trophy in America, founded mostly to own the Brits, but also to make some serious cheddar for the fledgling New York Yacht Club. It was based on a challenge, but for the first time in its 132-year history, would not be won by Americans this year, but by the Royal Perth Yacht Club from Australia.
So this was like a sailing competition?
Yeah, it's the famous like yachting competition.
Yeah, it started as a challenge against the, I think it was like the British naval something, but then the Americans beat them by a full 8 minutes. Queen Victoria was apparently there, and she said, "Who comes in second?" And they had to like mournfully tell her, "There is no second." It's winner take all. That's not the only besting of America to happen this year, as Scottish pilot Richard Noble would set the new land speed record at over 634 miles per hour in the Thrust 2, which was basically a seat strapped in front of a Rolls-Royce Avon engine. He co-designed with John Aykroyd. This is the first time since the use of jet engines on land speed records from 1963 that Americans have not set the record. Nobel would actually go on to also design the successor vehicle, Thrust SSC, which is the first land vehicle to officially break the sound barrier. And I believe it's still the current land speed record holder. And finally, speaking of records, it's impossible not to mention 1983 without bringing up the culmination of the 11-season television juggernaut MASH, Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, that would air on CBS to a record-shattering 105+ million viewers in America alone. Given that the U.S. population was about 233 million, that's over 3/4 of households with televisions. While the series finale record would hold to this day, another record was set here in New York City, as reported contemporaneously in the New York Times, as well as other publications, that an additional 6.7 million gallons above the average daily rate of 150 million a day coincided with the ending of the show, according to Peter Barrett, who is the city's Department of Environmental Protection. Quote, "In speaking to engineers who've been around for 30 or 40 years, they haven't encountered anything like this before," Barrett stated. Quote, "We don't know of any instantaneous increase of water usage that would match this. And speaking of incredible deluges of water," April 15th, 1983, Flashdance debuts at number 2, surprisingly, taking over 4 million, just under the 4.2 million that was earned by the number 1 this week, which is Lone Wolf McQuade. I don't know if you ever watched that. That's the Chuck Norris, David Carradine neo-Western that's basically a predecessor.
That was number 1?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was big.
Also not surprised, though.
Yeah.
A little surprised.
Yeah, it's basically like a predecessor to
Norris.
Yeah, Walker, Texas Ranger. I think he got sued by the owners of the film franchise because it was so similar when they went on to do that show. It would go on to take number 1 the next week and for the following 3 weeks, beating out a slew of newcomers like David Bowie's vampire film The Hunger, directed by fellow Brit Tony Scott, who also was would work with Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer quite a bit. Oh, Martha Coolidge's Valley Girl, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Yeah, that was the Disney version of that, which I still actually really enjoy. Dr. Detroit, that very odd Dan Aykroyd movie. Cheech Chong's Still Smoking. My autocorrect, for some reason, put Schlong.
Yeah, dude.
Cheech and Schlong, and re-releases such as Porky's and Rocky 3. Overall, this would be a massive, massive hit, taking in almost 93 million domestically for a total cume of over 200 million globally against its $7 million budget.
And makes a little more sense when you look at the rest of the movies on that list, because I feel like 83 was maybe not the best year.
Oh, no. It's the 3rd highest grossing film of this year, and that includes heavy hitters like the number 1, Return of the Jedi.
Oh, all right. Back.
Terms of Endearment, which barely beat it out. Trading Places was 4th. War Games 5th. Octopussy 6th. Sudden Impact 7th. That's the...
I'm going to amend my statement to say within that time period when it was number 1 initially, maybe the movies weren't so great.
Yeah, maybe
But
around that.
clearly the rest of the year was fine.
Yeah, Staying Alive, oddly enough, Mr. Mom and Risky Business. Staying Alive being another favorite dancing movie of mine because it's just, wow. That's another one where it's just like, why are you all wet all the time? I don't understand. Sales of the soundtrack went over 700,000 in its first 2 weeks. And the newly minted MTV network, which had only been around for a couple of years, was airing music videos cut from the actual segments of this movie, which is like Maniac and What a Feeling, which helped, I think, keep this film in the top 10 for 15 weeks straight. It would also be the inspiration.
Great soundtrack.
It's a good
God.
soundtrack.
It's a really good
It's
soundtrack.
so good. This would also be, this is also one of my favorites. It's the inspiration for the 27th Peanuts animated television special. It's Flash Beagle, Charlie Brown.
Oh my God.
That was after Charles Schultz drew Snoopy in Jennifer Beals' outfit from the
I was
movie.
just going to say,
I remember
please
that,
tell
yeah.
me that Snoopy wasn't Jennifer Beals.
Big sweater with the leg warmers. Yeah.
Yep.
I totally remember. And he does the Snoopy
I
dance.
remember Snoopy it as just
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man, it's kind of crazy, but this was this is absolutely gigantic. It's also something that I haven't seen in a while, and I watched it now. And for something
The
that's
plot is bare. The plot is like,
the
There is
stakes
no
are
plot.
so low.
There's no
I
plot.
was like, what's that? Save the Last Dance. I was like, was essentially like a kind of reimagining similarly because it's just like she's also trying to make it into dance school, you know?
Yeah, this is
Right.
there's no plot here except
No.
Plot.
except this is a girl that dances at a place that isn't so classy and she wants to dance at a classier place. That is the plot.
but what I don't about her character is also like a bit bewildering because if
She's
we're-
18.
I know she's 18. Every time anything, we were like, why is she doing this? Alex,
She's
is like,
18.
I know. But also she's an 18-year-old.
Well, can we just flag right
who
now?
has somehow managed to secure a union job as a welder on a work
She
site?
got connections.
And also like sleep with her 38-year-old boss.
That was what I was about to
Oh,
say.
yeah.
Bad.
He's-
Let's just get it out of the way
He's
right
nearly
now.
twice her age. Oh,
Very, very bad.
it's so
gross. And I
awful.
know.
Twice her age would be okay. He's like more than twice.
And they bring it up in the movie.
Follows
That,
her everywhere. He's a little
I was about to say
stalker.
Andy stalks her
He's
yeah, that
stalky.
was.
and he
that was-
doesn't take no for an
She's got
answer.
The right instincts at the beginning where she's like, I don't go to dinner with the boss. I'm like, good job.
Yep.
Good job,
I
you.
was like, she's actually like a huge Alex. That's a lot of good choices at the beginning of this movie. And I'm like, I wish you stuck to them.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. What was it? The comedian guy. He also like brings
Yes.
that up when he's like, "Oh,
Richie.
we used to break noses all the time." I was like, "Yeah, was that cool in the '50s?" And it's just like, burn,
Yeah.
dude.
I Richie for his faults in being
Oh,
a
he's
little
terrible
racist
and
in his
racist.
A little racist?
racist.
A
Oh my
little
God.
A
racist?
lot of racist.
But then there were times where I was like, is he Polish? like,
I
is
don't
he-
care. I don't
It
care.
doesn't
if
matter.
people-
It's
like,
really
it-
bad.
that
It's
it's
really
really
bad.
weird. That one made me uncomfortable. Like using the word that he uses
Yeah.
made me uncomfortable. I'm like, a lot of these other movies I can handle when they drop these slurs. So I'm like, it's the 80s. But that one is so
Well,
out
it's-
of the vernacular now.
It was like Archie Bunker kind of ridiculousness
was.
in the
Yeah.
racism. Because my dad, because he used to love All in the Family, that was the Archie Bunker one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Would constantly use that word.
Ugh.
And I was like, no.
Well, they had
This is
Yeah.
a bad word, Dad. And he's like, but Archie says it. And I'm like, right, that's the point. Archie's the bad guy in this.
Give Me a Break, the TV show, was like based around Polish jokes.
Yeah.
Because the family was Polish and they used to make those jokes all the time. But it's, it's like the acceptable dumb blonde jokes that used to be.
Yeah.
Like it's just not acceptable anymore.
It's really bad. And it's also, it doesn't help the fact that like I get it when they introduce the character and all of his jokes are bad.
Yeah.
But then he actually does a full set.
And then people
and
enjoy
half of
it.
it is literally just like ethnic jokes. And it's like,
It's so
wow.
bad. It's so racist.
and also
And
like
especially
ethnic
in a
jokes that
town
are
like
homophobic too. Like
yeah, there's a lot of like
I'm just going to go out on a
homophobia
limb and say
ableist-
this guy was a bad comedian.
Bad comedian.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be in LA.
It wasn't
should-
funny.
But I mean, he fails in LA.
he
does
fails in
fail.
LA.
Very quickly.
Honestly, I don't know why he didn't take the job as a waiter. Like
yeah,
it's-
that's a step up.
And I
Good
don't
money.
know why he goes to LA. You're in fucking Pittsburgh. Why don't you go to Chicago or New York or something to like start your
Oh, because they would
No,
have been
LA
really mean
was
to him
the-
there.
LA was like where it was all happening though. Like
okay.
especially around this time.
Austin?
The 80s? Like
I
the
feel
80s?
like
Austin?
Yeah.
In New York, second city in Chicago,
Exactly.
please.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Even Austin had a good comedy scene in the 80s.
Yeah,
It's
I can't. Oh, did you see like the little special appearance?
Oh,
by,
yes. From Batman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Robert Wall.
Robert Wall, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Robert Wall was in it. And I was like, oh, look at you,
What was
so
he?
young.
He was just in
He
the
was
audience.
just like a-
he was
He's
like
one of
he
the
was
bar
just a
guys.
dude.
in the audience.
He's one of the guys at the beginning when they're all talking while she's on stage.
Oh my
I
god!
think
Yeah.
that
And
might have been
also,
one of the moments where I was like,
what
what
a
is this
gross
movie?
way to introduce the like? I mean, we're talking about this problematic relationship between Alex and old dude.
Oh, when he tells her his social security number, it's like that's not cool.
Yeah.
Stop!
But-
And then to make the point that you employ her, she's your employee.
Mhm.
Like you own her, basically, is what he's like.
So not
insinuating.
only did he have to look that up, he had to be
Oh, it's so creepy and memorize it.
to
like-
memorize it.
Oh, it's
Like, what are you
creepy.
doing with that, dude?
That is so creepy.
He very
All
clearly
the men in this are really, really gross.
Just so
very
awful.
problematic.
yeah.
I specifically want to talk about what's her name's dad at some point.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah,
totally.
What is her name, by the way? Deanna?
Jeannie.
Jeannie. Poor Jeannie.
I don't know where I got Deanna from.
Like,
Yeah, her dad is messed up.
just the worst part of like toxic masculinity where he cannot support his daughter in any way, shape, or form, cannot tell his daughter that he loves her in any way, shape, or form until she's like
At the bottom.
literally at the lowest point of her
Yeah.
life.
Right.
And he gives her this barest crumbs. And if I needed to sum up parent relationships in the 80s, I would just show
Wow.
people like him over and over and over and over and over.
Well, and if you need to sum up how someone makes it to that second club,
Yeah.
look at the relationship with the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Gina gets the rough end of the stick in this movie.
Well,
Sorry,
and
Jeannie.
also just because
Gets
it's
the
like
fuzzy end of the lollipop.
the fact that like they lead into that scene, it was like you eat like pigs. It's like holy shit, dude. You
Yeah.
like, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
Can you imagine the number of calories Alex is burning in a day between
Oh,
dancing
God.
I know the two
and
of them are
welding
like
and riding her bike everywhere?
stick thin.
Well, I mean, it's obvious because they've been training to do like she was training to be a skater and Alex is training to be a dancer.
Yeah, do you know how
Um,
much like power you need for those like
oh,
spins
God,
and
yeah.
stuff? Come
Yeah.
on.
And the fact that she keeps saying like, "Oh, I don't really eat that much," I'm like, because she didn't take lunch.
And she was eating corn.
Yeah, and she's just eating corn, no protein.
which goes right through you.
Yeah, so it's like, why are you even going to the gym at that point?
Ugh. Just like the whole like
That's
underlying
why they can't lift the 5-pound weights.
yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
really, 'cause-
underlying body and like image issues in this movie are like "Whoa."
I mean, you could definitely tell. So this is director Adrian Lin. This is only his second film, by the way, but he was a British director. He came from a lot of doing like commercial work. Oddly enough, fun story. He had employed Kevin Costner in an Apple commercial he shot like a little bit before this movie, and then brought him on to test with Jennifer Beals. And so he almost got that part, but I apparently just didn't work out. Yeah, he basically paid him to sit with her and run scene, and so they could get the look to see if like she was going to be, this is more her test than his. But I could have seen Kevin Costner in that role and
Yeah.
not been like so gross and creepy, because he was also still pretty young at that point.
Yeah, he was younger probably.
Yeah,
Oh God.
yeah. But yeah,
The
oh my God.
only so that actor who plays her love interest, what's his name? Like Michael Nori.
Michael Nori.
yeah, Michael
Michael
Nori.
Nori.
The only thing I know him from is from like
NCIS.
NCIS
Mhm.
as like somebody's dad.
Oh, he's
You know?
a
He's done
character actor
tons
that's
of
done
stuff,
a
yeah.
ton of stuff. He was in The Watcher this past year.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I can say for him is he legitimately looks like a dude from the wrong side of the tracks
Yeah.
from
That
from,
made
Made
good.
it.
Pittsburgh.
from
Yeah.
Pittsburgh who would absolutely try to sleep with an 18-year-old.
Mhm.
Well, I'd say we are still kind of in the
Uh.
time when they weren't casting super pretty people, but then you look at Jennifer Beals and they
Oh my God, Jennifer Beals is
So
like
beautiful.
so beautiful.
so
Stunning.
hot.
Yeah.
Even with that
The
haircut.
lobster eating scene gave me feelings I didn't realize that I could have.
There's reasons that Jennifer Beal became like a gay icon,
Oh,
from
yeah.
this
Yes.
movie. Like I think
Well-
she awakened a lot of feelings in a lot
I am
of
a
women.
little bit gayer
Yeah.
now having watched that scene, actually.
She's so cool. Like her character. This is the other thing that like mystifies me. She's super cool. She's a
Yeah.
cool character. Like
Mhm.
she's a fucking welder. She lives in this cool ass loft.
Although she does need to deal
Warehouse-
with her rage issues.
She's got
sometimes.
some rage issues, but don't we
Yeah.
all living in
We do.
society
You
today?
know what? She just
know?
has to add boxing to her
She needs
like,
to add-
workout
she
regimen.
needed a little bit of a contact sport in her
Oh yeah.
in her routine, and she would get that aggression out. And
I mean, and I understand why she's like mad and brimming with daddy
totally,
issues.
because she's being like sexually objectified everywhere. She's got on the fucking street.
Cool old lady best friend.
Oh yeah,
Rides her bike
Lilia,
everywhere.
Yeah, Lilia Scala.
She's the coolest.
Oh
Anna.
God, I love her.
And I don't know why
She was in Lilies of the Field, the mother character.
Well,
She like for such a small part, she's so good in it.
She's so
and I love those
good.
scenes.
She's so good.
Yeah,
Go
I
to
love
the
the scenes with her
ballet.
and Hell. Yeah,
The one thing I don't get with Jennifer Beals is she was stunning in this movie. She's actually very good in this movie. She's very charismatic.
she's the only thing that keeps this movie together.
Yeah.
totally.
And yet this movie should have made her
Bigger.
such a big star.
Yeah.
She had one failed movie after this that just took her off the map. And then it took her another like 15, 20 years to be even in the conversation again.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Racism.
I don't know if it was racism because she's not like identifiably any ethnicity. I think it's more.
But I think it. I mean,
not as a
even in
character,
this
but like
movie-
in like Hollywood, you don't think
Yeah.
racism played any sort of part for
But
her.
also, even in this movie, like
No.
when she's at the conservatory waiting in line, it's all like white blonde girls in front
Yeah.
of her, you know, who are there
Yeah.
and feel like they belong, and she feels like she doesn't belong. I think she was definitely cast because of her kind of like ambiguous looks.
She had also there was a couple parts that I think she turned down, and maybe in retrospect, like I know, like she was supposed to be in Sam Elmo's Fire.
Well, and
Andy McDowell.
I don't know which part, but she ended up turning that down. And that's another one like that could have been like
well, and
easily
after she
cemented
took
her.
a break, she was at an Ivy League school. She took a break to do this movie and then turned down additional roles to go back to school. So maybe she didn't catch on fire because she's like,
She did. If you look
gotta
at
get
her,
that piece of paper.
I was just
Yeah, she
looking at her
graduated from
resume.
Yale.
If you look at her resume, she's worked steadily this
Sure.
whole
Oh, absolutely.
but she just never had the Hollywood support behind her to
I
actually.
mean, the L Word alone was like
Well, but that's a long time ago. Like,
But
Yeah,
she's been in things like almost every year for a
yeah, it
very
was just
long time.
terrible. Most of the movies were really like
Yeah.
bad B and C list type movies.
I did see Roger Ebert make the comment that Jennifer Beals is great in this film. She just needs to find an agent who is as good at saying
Mhm.
no to things.
Yeah,
yeah.
she
yeah.
just picked like I don't know if that's what it is, but they just picked wrong property after wrong property.
And
But
he
I'm
hated
trying to
this
think of
movie.
other like. First of all, trying to think of other huge female stars from the '80s, and they've all kind of blended.
I was
In my
thinking
head.
of the
I
other
mean,
Jennifer
more-
Grey. Is that Jennifer Grey from
Yeah.
Dirty Dancing?
Dirty Dancing, but she had the one
kind of
movie.
like
I mean, Sigourney.
well, but there's a
Weaver-
reason for that, and it's her
Right.
nose.
it's her nose.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver, but like Sigourney Weaver, I think was the rare.
That was like the more of the classically like Katharine Hepburn-y.
Yeah,
kind
she
of-
wasn't the hot action star like we get today. She
I mean, you
was
get people like Melanie Griffith. You get people like
To me, more Molly Ringwald, Ali
Yep.
Sheedy. They were
Well,
all in that time period.
yeah. I mean, I think nowadays she would have been such a hot property after something like this. Like,
I mean, yeah, this
she
broke
would have
her.
been snapped up by the MCU immediately.
Well, I feel like the second she went into the L Word, she had found her time.
Mm.
Like, I think it's just that history needed to catch up with her a little bit because they
Now
like,
you always get a treat, right? Whenever you're like,
Right.
"Ooh, Jennifer Beals in this, yay!
but, like I think the early '80s were just she was a little bit ahead of what Hollywood was ready for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she caught up to it with the L Word.
Yeah.
And maybe Four Rooms, which was the first time I saw her in like 15 years.
Really? That was it?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
because I remember her from The Bride, which was right after this, and then I don't
Oh,
remember
yeah,
her
yeah,
in
yeah.
anything
That's not
again until
very
Four
good.
Rooms.
I
Tarantino bullshit. Am I thinking
Yeah.
of the right film? Okay.
You are well.
Yeah.
The section is the Tarantino bullshit.
Yeah.
Sure.
Although I have a soft spot for that movie.
Oh, the Robert
Anything
Rodriguez bit.
Tarantino is a part of turns into the Tarantino bullshit in my head.
Yeah, the one with the kids.
Mhm.
Like, did they misbehave? Like that one is just pure comic gold. It's amazing.
Okay, we're already
we're
talking about
the
other
wrong one.
films.
I know.
I would say, yeah, for Adrian Lynn, like he would of course go on
To
to
direct
do-
Lolita. Holy shit.
Yeah. So right after this one, he does like 9.5 Weeks, like his whole big shtick is a lot of these like erotic
Yeah.
kind of,
Thrillers.
yeah, except for Jacob's Ladder, which I still absolutely love, but
It's so good. It's so weird.
it's bonkers.
So
yeah.
weird.
But yeah, he did the 97 version of Lolita, which is interesting.
Okay, side note, just for you're probably gonna cut this out. My boyfriend in college, his favorite book was Lolita. His favorite movie was Lolita. In retrospect, there are some red flags on this relationship.
I mean,
a little bit.
if I didn't have guys that were into people that look younger, I would never have dated at all.
Still,
Doesn't have to be a
so
Lolita fetish.
blatant to Humbert.
That one is,
Humbert.
I mean, that one seems very
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah.
Oh, he asked me to be Lolita in an acting scene where he was Humbert
Oh dear.
in front of
No.
people. It was weird. It was weird.
Bryce, I'm
That's
glad you got out of that relationship alive.
So was my family, actually. Like, there was concerns.
The other thing I did want to talk about, because it's right in there. It starts the movie and it ends the movie. It's Irene Cara.
Yes. Rest
Yeah.
in peace.
Flashdance. What
Rest
a
in
feeling.
power.
Oh my God.
Great
Such-
song.
Yeah. And this is also like well into her career. Like she had been on Broadway. She had been doing a lot of performing and singing.
This is after Fame. This is after
Right
Fame.
after Fame.
Yeah.
Fame was 80. So she already got an Oscar nod for that song, and this would finally get her an Oscar. She's actually just one short of an EGOT. She just never got that Emmy.
Aw.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this year alone, she would get the Oscar for the song that she co-wrote with Giorgio Moroder, who actually she didn't even want to work with because she was really afraid of being compared to Donna Summers.
Fair.
And I get that. That's especially at this time when disco is
Yeah.
kind of,
Mhm.
Fair comparison.
moving away from like popular culture. But yeah, it wins the Grammy, it wins the Golden Globe. It's such an iconic piece of this that I don't even mind that they doubled it up and you play it at the end, and it just ends with the freeze frame. You don't even know, like there's no words. Once the needle
Just
drops,
freezes.
it's like from that dance line when she says, "Can I start it again?" She drops the needle. There's no other dialogue. That's it. It's
Yeah.
just the movie's over.
Well,
Are we at the point where we can talk about the audition scene yet?
Oh yeah,
we're
let's
jumping
just
around.
get into
Let's
it.
do it.
I think we should just jump around.
The judges in the audition scene.
Ridiculous.
Why? Why are
killing
they
me.
smoking?
The smoking, like you forget that everybody could smoke, but smoking while dancers are auditioning is
But
just
also, like,
mean.
I just don't buy it for ballet judges.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's the
Well,
other,
like,
like those are like the skeezy Broadway judges that would have come
Yeah.
in from like the early 80s, but also all of them being so stuffy until she turns on.
And then there's like
Gets to
toe
the happy
tapping,
part.
and I'm like
Yeah.
blowing my nose to the rhythm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my question is, and this, I come from a higher education professional background. Are these rolling auditions? Is everybody auditioning this day? Is this the
Whenever it seems like
40th
it's
audition
whenever.
they've seen this day? Like, I need more like background here.
Is it supposed to be a full year? Like,
Uh,
had she experienced a full year? Is that what
It
happened?
seems pretty open. It seems like whenever
time-
you feel
time
like
makes no sense
applying
in
to
this
the
movie.
school, you
Yeah.
apply to the school.
Well, this is what I'm like, rolling auditions. Like, what is even happening with this?
also, who is on this like panel? Because clearly the lady
receptionist.
receptionist.
The receptionist is on the panel, which was very confusing.
Well, when I was working as a graduate admissions assistant, I absolutely made all the decisions about who was getting into the
Okay,
school.
fair.
Yeah, hands down, 22 years old.
Sure.
all
Yeah.
those
Why not? Yeah. So that scene, it is what will be remembered through time. So much so that like there's been multiple music videos made based on that scene.
Mhm.
One they had to actually sue about because it
Oh,
was
J-Lo.
Halo.
yeah.
But also, how many sitcoms reenacted that scene?
Totally.
God, yeah.
But I love her fall. I love the callback
Yeah.
to
Jeannie.
Jeannie.
Yeah.
poor Jeannie.
Yeah, who
Poor
just
Jeannie.
like
Poor
she kept saying,
Jeannie.
get up, do it. And like this also follows so Don Simpson used to have this thing that he called it's like high concept, but not like in the way that we think of high concept. It's basically like it's the equivalent of like all your movies should be elevator pitch level.
Mm.
So that's how accessible they are. And if you look at the way that they produce these movies, it's like the stakes are so ridiculously low. It's I want to be in this school. All this other weird stuff happens. And then I got to the school and then I won.
And I gotta say, I'm just gonna put this out there. If you've got a boyfriend that is twice your age who is kind of skeezy and stalked you, but then called and got you an audition that you couldn't have gotten into any other way, I think you don't get mad about it.
Yeah,
You
like
can
that's
take it.
the point.
I do
isn't
not
it?
understand the rage about being upset that he finally did her a favor and got her into this audition.
She's 18. I had
Yeah.
the same exact problem.
She's 18.
She's 18.
I want to do it myself. I'm an adult.
Or
But
maybe
also,
like he broke the illusion that it was her. Like he was
Yeah.
supposed to maintain this quiet.
I think it's also like another addition to his power dynamic, though, because he very clearly has that because he's her boss and he threatened her with being fired
Yeah.
if she
Oh
didn't.
my
This
God,
has
the
nothing
worst.
Not
to
a
do
joke.
with that. Nothing to do with that. I look
nothing
at
to do
this,
with that. I'm just saying, like,
I look at this as comparable to Rent,
Sure.
where I'm going to talk about something else, where we're talking about the Benny situation and the fact that Benny was going to pay for them to all have a rehearsal space where they could actually live and work and do the things they wanted. And all they had to do was say, okay, and not give Benny a hard time. Same deal. This guy is willing to use his connections to help her move forward in a way that she could not do otherwise. The world is unfair. If you don't have those connections, you're not going to get in. So fine, use your damn connection.
Well, and from her behavior during the second restaurant scene,
Yeah.
and her like give me all the feelings scene, I thought she was on board with that she understood that she was the trophy, that she was there to be like audacious and sexy and elevate his prestige, and he would elevate her prestige.
Yeah. I think it's also just the scene that follows that when she's kind of having that, like, so you loved her once and what happened? And then he says, well, I changed and I didn't realize that I didn't know what I wanted. And so I had to figure that out. Like, it's really ham-fisted, but I kind of get how that like applies to her, and then why she's so like angry, I guess. And
She's
like, she seems
18.
to fly
She's
off
like
the
angry smoking immediately after in the
Yeah.
most 18-year-old way.
Also, him saying she wasn't even old enough to smoke. I know it was a comment on her behavior.
I mean, she
But
was
also-
barely old enough to smoke.
but also terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Also, she definitely does not smoke.
But guys, he got points back because he brought her dog with a big bow on it.
With
No,
the
no,
big
but
bow.
he would have
But
had to
also-
break into her apartment.
yeah,
to
it's
get
true.
the dog
Also
with-
true.
I'm gonna
Oh,
say
I
he
don't
probably-
know. I think,
which
I
is
think they
probably has
probably
a
have
key.
keys.
Yeah, he probably has a key by that point.
but they were fighting. She didn't like him, and he still felt comfortable enough
Well,
to
at
break
that-
into
They had made
her
up.
apartment.
They had made out.
They had made up.
They had made
No,
out.
not
Well, they
before the
definitely made
audition.
out.
No,
No, not
Yes,
before the
they did.
audition.
when?
No,
Yeah.
they hadn't.
They were back in bed at one point.
Yeah, how would
No,
he
not
have-
before the
No, that was
audition.
before.
Not-
Yeah.
That was before the audition.
No,
How would
no,
he have-
they were in the fight. She hung up on the
Yeah.
phone, which is when Hannah's death was going to be announced.
This was like
Then-
him making up with her.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
this
That
was the
doesn't-
makeup. So he broke it.
That doesn't mean that a makeup didn't happen because he showed up. There was no like, I'm sorry. It was just her running into his arms.
I
So
think
I
this
don't
is
had
the-
the roses. Anyway,
Because the dancer is supposed to get flowers at the end.
Maybe this is a weird cutoff that happens, like with.
I mean, there was a cut of this movie that was much longer.
Yeah, I don't
it-
need to see that.
It's way too
Yeah.
long for a
No,
movie.
it's 97 minutes.
Puss in Boots last night, Puss in Boots 2, which has a much better plot than this.
I hear like
It was
give me
okay.
my friend's top 10 list from 2022.
It's so
It was okay.
good.
It was cute.
I will say, like, for a 97-minute film, Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer were absolutely right, because Adrian Lynn came back and it was like 2 hours plus. And they were like, cut this shit down. Basically, like, we need to get butts and seats kind of level. And I think that was the smart move because, this movie is gorgeous. Like, everything about it is just
pretty.
so beautiful.
Very pretty.
That, again,
The
is thanks
steam,
to...
all
It's
those
the-
like steam scenes are very.
Oh,
It's
God.
the Avatar of dance movies.
So
yeah,
like on
it's
this,
Donald Petterman who's
It's
the
pretty
cinematographer
well
in this, and we talked about him in Adam's Family. Like, he's got an amazing eye, and I think that this film relies so heavily on these great visuals and montages that it almost feels like the plot would just get in the way. Like,
well, some of my favorite things from last year had the thinnest sliver of plot, and I'm thinking specifically of K-pop and The Six.
That's
Like
very true.
the very thinnest sliver
Oh,
of
right,
plot.
that's last year already.
But
I know.
but they had music to carry them through.
This also had music.
this also had
Well,
music.
Not the same way.
from like a really pulled out perspective. I like this movie from a very pulled out perspective. It's quick, it's snappy, the plot is sliver thin, but like I am entertained by everything. But then you zero in on the details and you're like,
If you look too closely, you get
Yeah.
real. This is definitely not a movie you want to sit and pay attention to.
No.
I feel like
No.
this is a
No.
movie that you want to be like half paying attention to.
you want to eat some
The
edibles from
songs.
one of those like those apple bar.
Don't be like looking at.
Sensory.
Don't look at the screen directly, because if you look at the
No.
screen directly, it's gonna like.
Oh, it's awful. And then you're like, oh, shitty power dynamic. Oh, rape joke. Oh,
Yeah, I think
homophobia.
the way that
racism.
I saw it originally in bits and pieces is the way you should see this movie. Like
100%.
Yeah.
see the shower scene at the beginning, see the dance at the end. The
Yeah.
rest of it really doesn't matter.
The
Like-
doggy is great. That
The
pup.
dog is great.
is
Dog
So
is like the,
Her
one of the
really
best parts of the
cool
movie.
boss at the cabaret.
a really cool boss at the cabaret.
Was that an aardvark suit? Was it a bunny suit?
I don't know, but
I
I
think it was
totally
an
like when
aardvark.
he shows up on the stage for the Halloween party. I was like, yeah, man.
My
Yeah.
imaginary backstory for that guy is that he is like, he's gay but not out, and he has a really, really supportive long-term boyfriend that he's had since like the 50s, and he would now be like a leather-clad bear
Yes.
daddy figure at the Pride Parade, but now he just gets it out with a cabaret.
I like it.
That's my backstory for him.
I absolutely love the scene with him, and he's like, I'm really nervous on stage. Like, oh, you nervous? Come here. And he just punches him right in the stomach. It's like, now you're angry. Go on stage.
Like, but again, but the second you zero in on details, you're like, oh no, movie
Yeah.
from
Yeah. One of my favorite moments in this movie, and I think it's just it's such a strange like little aside, but at the fit when she's gathering all her stuff at the end, she's had it and she's like, I'm gonna give up. And then her friend, who's kind of her frenemy at the dance
The bitter
club,
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
right, gives that whole speech about dresses and how she just stopped after a while. And sometimes she's like, yeah, I'll I'll bring the trunk by. You can pick what you have. And then kind of like almost through tears, it's like the show must go on, and then exits. And it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, where was that this whole movie?
Right. It was like, that was a really great little moment, but it was
Yeah.
like almost like,
Dark.
Kind of thrown away though.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
every moment between women in this movie is like A+ excellent.
Yeah, it's true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And every time a dude walks on the screen, you're like, well,
They
this is gonna
ruin
be
it.
suck.
well, except for the whole like, is he gonna call me? Is he gonna call me? Like that whole payoff was so lame. Like,
No, because even they were like, they were giving her good advice. Like,
yeah,
just call him, just do it. Why are you like, and that's legitimately how women support each other through mockery.
Yeah.
It's
fair. Like her relationship with Hannah, the older dancer,
Yeah.
was great. I love those moments, those little scenes, and it's so
It's
like,
so lovely
you
when they
can
go on
see-
like the date together to the ballet. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so nice.
and she's
Well,
still like dressed all informal and then still
Dress
riding
all
her bike.
nice. Yeah, and
Well,
she
and-
gets her in the cab at the end of the night. Like it's
well, even
so-
Alex and the ex-wife, like that is a good moment between them.
Oh yeah.
And it just because of how bitchy it is and how
Yeah.
Alex comes into her own, like
Yeah.
in her own way through it.
Oh, that as soon as she drops the coat, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there you go.
Like-
That is the biggest like double gun salute, fuck you, to this lady who's like,
Like,
yeah,
I
oh,
loved
you
it.
think you're better than me? Yeah, I don't care.
Just cut the dudes out of this movie and it is like A+, no notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all of the scenes where he's like pestering her at work and she's just like,
Well, also,
no.
like, Her colleagues that are like cheering when they make up after a fight, I'm like, what is this? What is this dynamic?
Yeah,
Oh,
they don't ever talk. Like she doesn't talk to anybody.
No. Also,
Except
She's
for the lunch
only
lady.
woman on this work site. She's the only woman
Yeah.
that has not been.
No, the lunch lady.
Lunch
The
lady
lunch lady.
selling sandwiches out of her trunk.
Yeah,
the
and
way,
then
like, that
she
she's-
has to sit there and watch these two like go at it. She's
but
like,
she's into it. She's like, oh, honey. Like, again, A+ movie with just women in it.
yeah,
And
the
it does-
flash dancers are great. The way that they
Yes.
interact with each other. Like,
Yeah.
it just lent a question to me.
Mhm.
In all of the movies that we've watched so far, has any of the stuff that we've kind of earmarked as offensive ever come from the women?
that's a
It's a-
good question. No,
a
there's
legitimate
definitely
question.
some.
Something she shouldn't have thrown that rock in his window.
That does well.
She
That,
smacked
but
him around a
that's
couple times. I'm like, okay, let's not get smacky.
Let's not go to
but
jail.
that's not like I'm talking about like the stuff that we built this podcast around, which is the stuff that's not
I mean,
2023 now compliant.
right?
I mean, Sophia Coppola, I didn't really like the whole lost of translation.
Yeah,
dynamic.
like-
That wasn't a
that
character in
one's-
the movie.
Sure, but like
I
she
mean,
was making
Scarlett
the point
Johansson
there.
is. Yeah,
I continue to strongly.
I was like,
disagree with you
let
guys
us
about
not relive the 2020 fight.
Oh no, like
2020, and
we
it's
did
2023 now. We've
Yeah.
been doing
let's-
this for a while, guys.
Let's not relive that fight. Let's not bring it back.
Empire Records had some
Oh, a ton.
women
Oh,
with some
yeah.
issues.
A little bit of slut shaming there, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A ton.
We had some serious issues with Pretty in Pink, the way that she treated Annie Potts.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Like-
I don't know if that was
Adam's
2020
Family Values.
though.
Adam's Family Values.
Harmony.
yeah.
I mean,
But I think for the most part, you're kind of onto that point. Oh,
Yeah.
Sleepless in Seattle was a woman
It
with
was a little stalkerish.
Yeah.
oh no,
that
movie's
one's a problematic.
Yeah, that was a problem. Meg Ryan
I'd
was
say-
stalker in that.
I'd say even if we can find some examples, the
The
comparison of the number of men that do offensive
It's true.
things
Yes.
versus the number of women
That's-
is
that's
pretty imbalanced.
Society.
That's also just society.
But also, some of the movies we watched, the women characters have been these like two-dimensional cutouts
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
where men get to offend more because they get to do more and that's who's in the movie.
While that's
Yeah.
true, I would say like the most offensive character in this movie is a side character, Richie.
Oh yeah, the comedian guy.
Yeah,
Oh, I
he's
think-
a side character, and
I
he
think-
wrote me.
Johnny
what's
C
his
is pretty
name?
bad.
I think the strip club owner
The-
is
Yeah, Johnny
way
C.
more
Like
offensive.
Mr. Sexual Assault.
Yeah,
And then let me throw $100
But either way,
at you.
also
Fuck you.
a supporting character.
Yeah.
So
Like,
he doesn't have like his entire character is
Yeah.
based around being a jackass.
Well, also boyfriend is ultimately very, 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 very problematic.
yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to so
But wasn't in the 80s.
the original screenplay and the story comes from a British writer, and he actually was a magazine editor. He comes from like he worked at Esquire. His name's Tom Headley, but a lot of the punch up for the actual like screenplay of this was Joe Esterhaus. And if you look at the stuff that Joe Esterhaus does, it's so after this he would go on to do Jagged Edge, which actually I kind of enjoy, Basic Instinct,
Yep.
Showgirls, which was the first script that sold for I believe for 2 million. And then he did that weird Alan Smithy film, the mockumentary about but yeah, this
Yeah, he was
oddly
talking
enough,
about Hollywood slime balls.
yeah, my favorite part about this is like you can see elements of Showgirls just poking through this like little
All she had
bits.
to do was the hand thing.
Yeah, and I'm like,
All she had to do.
oh man, I could see it coming.
Oh,
And
so
I
gross.
just it's such a god, but this film is so sincere because I think that's Adrian Lynn, like, and a lot of people, like critics, hated this movie. Like it just was like panned universally, and I think it made like Roger Ebert's like worst film of the year or something like that. Like he really
hated.
despised this.
Yeah.
And I get it because like a lot of comparisons are made to Saturday Night Fever. It's definitely in that vein because it's weirdly, it's
I would say it's probably
realism
a direct response to Saturday Night Fever.
right, but it's so much glossier. Like you look at
So,
Saturday Night
like,
Fever,
you
it
look
is
at,
gritty.
It's,
Yeah.
It's dark.
it's a carbon copy. It's like all the others. You have your original, which is the one that has some depth and grit to it, and then the more you make that movie over and over again,
Yeah, but this is so
the
slick.
glossier it gets.
And
Yeah.
it's like weirdly innocent.
And this was 4 or 5 years after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I am almost positive this was just pitched as the female Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
I'm sure because like again, so MGM sold this apparently because this is Don Simpson's first like production after he got fired, and I think they just wanted to saddle him so that he would like, oh yeah, here, make this dumbass dance movie, because nobody liked the script. Even Adrian Lynn didn't like the script. Like, but again, I
Not
think
a
there's
good
just
script.
it's
Like,
really
it's
not. It's
the
really
writing-
not.
Some of the dialogue is
There's
like
just nothing
embarrassing.
It's
there,
so rough.
too.
It's really, really rough. And like it's so unnatural. Like the entire workout conversation is so bad. It's
So
like
bad.
I see what they're trying to do, but it's just like it's more uncomfortable. I'm like, just
Also, where are
no
they
more
working out?
talkie.
Because it looks like they're working out just in like a blank
a
screen.
photo booth.
Yeah, they're working
Yeah,
out in like a
yeah.
studio.
That's my favorite part because they're just like in this like very and it is
Bright
it's like
white room.
What I
yeah.
want to imagine is the people who were there at the gym with them going, the fuck?
They brought their own softbox light and just like are just working up behind it, and they're also like working on machines like right next to each other. And was like, why would you put that machine right next to the other one? I
Well,
don't
like
get
when
this.
she rescues Jeannie from the strip club and she like takes her outside, and poor Jeannie literally
Yeah.
falls in the gutter, like scraping up her dollar bills. And then she stands up and she's like, I'm cold. Like, well,
Yeah, no shit.
duh, you're naked in a trench coat in Iceberg. Of course you're cold. Like
That's
Yeah.
my other big problem with movies like this is the poor best friend always has the worst life because you have to see somebody fail so that you can put in perspective how awesome it is when the protagonist wins.
Yeah.
But poor Jeannie, poor all of these second fiddles.
Sweet, innocent, like ice skates wannabe dancer who's serving burgers.
Also, was the ice skating her first try? Because if she fell
No,
down
she'd been
and
doing
then
it for
just
2 years.
okay.
Well,
Because if
that's
she
what
just
I
gave up.
Well, that's what I like. I interpreted as like all her money went into
Training.
costume and
Right.
training for this. Also, they didn't tie up Jeannie. Like they didn't give any bones to Jeannie's story at the end. Like that.
No,
was
right
like,
after that's the last you see of her, basically.
Like, they didn't throw a bone to this. Like, why wasn't she at with like the dog and the boyfriend? Like all she had to do was be there with her, and it could have been like a group hug.
Do they ever meet, the Jeannie and Michael Nori?
I mean, they were at the club together.
But I don't think they ever interact.
No. 'Cause
Yeah.
why would he care what her entire life
Well,
looks like?
that's my point. She
Yeah.
can't be there with the dog because they don't know enough about each other for him to know who her best friend is.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, maybe he just doesn't care because he's a weird creeper.
He is a total creeper.
I did want to mention because so the woman who played Jeannie, Sunny Sue Johnson, who actually unfortunately died
Oh.
the year
Oh,
after
no.
this movie.
Just keeps losing.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was it's kind of like in Pretty in Pink, like Alexa Keenan, who
Yeah.
just passed away entirely too young.
Oh, wait,
Uh, sh-
was it Pretty
so-
Pink? 16 Candles.
no, it was Pretty in Pink.
Okay.
That was the first film that they released posthumously of hers. She died right after this movie of a brain hemorrhage. She was only 30, and yeah, she was in the night the lights went out in Georgia. She was in Where the Buffalo Roam, which I actually kind of enjoy that one. It's very, very strange.
Is that
But
the
yeah,
Bill
the
Murray?
Hunter Thompson.
Yeah.
It's the Bill Murray one where it's like
Bill Murray is
yeah,
Hunter S. Thompson.
yeah, it's very, very strange, but I kind of enjoy it.
No, I like it too.
It's not nearly as batshit as Fear and Loathing,
Right.
but I think it captures that feeling pretty well. But yeah, I was just kind of like I was watching this movie, and in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, nothing works out for
sucks.
you. But yeah, they just kind of that's another one of those things. It's like as soon as you hit the beat, they just throw it away. Like it's done. Like all these resolutions feel so tacked on. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now we're cleaning this one up, and now we're doing this. The whole point of Helen dying is just so that she can experience some tragedy.
Hannah.
Or Hannah, sorry, yeah.
I know it's Alexandra and Helen, like
know,
you
that
would
would be
think.
weird.
but that's a little too close.
Well, I also think it's the same thing that they do in most movies where you have your mentor figure, but you can't move forward until the mentor is dead. So they always have to kill off the mentor. So
Well, I
that
mean,
you can take
this
that
is-
step into being the mentor person.
Right. And if you walk it beat for beat, this is also Top Gun, except it's not the mentor, it's Goose. And
Yeah.
you don't get tragedy, and then she starts doubting herself and doesn't want to do any of this stuff. So yeah, the friend and Hannah are kind of just there to service the main character
Mhm.
to finally become the number one person. And it's so weird.
Which, by the way, she's going to show up to that first dance class and realize that she is like 20 years behind everybody else in the class from a technical perspective. She would be done in like a month.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this
she's
is why she
taking,
needs to
like-
get into like MMA and kickboxing.
She's taking uppers to like compete with. It's gonna be a mess. It's not gonna be good.
Well, I like the idea that they want because that breakdancing bit got everybody really excited. So maybe it's one of those things where they're branching out in their dance program and they want like street dance or
The administrative
like,
assistant
performative
who's
dance.
making decisions is gonna like into the curriculum.
Yeah.
I
don't
think it's going to
she's
be that guy
in
blowing
charge
his
of-
nose.
I
like,
feel
yeah,
like
let's
this
do
is the first part of center stage at the beginning of the movie when they're all auditioning. This is what happens before that audition scene. So I look at it as this is probably like a really stuffy ballet school that's only populated by dancers with an exquisite amount of training. And now you've got this girl in here who all of her experience is self-taught and or on a bar stage, whatever you want to call it. She would be done within a month. She would be bullied out of the school, not by the students, but by the teachers.
Who apparently don't have classes. There's no classrooms
They just all hang out in the lobby.
in the lobby,
It's all just happening in hallways.
and they absolutely only wear proper leotards and point shoes all the
all
time.
the time. Yeah.
And the guys have like deep V cleavage so that you see nipples on the side.
Mhm.
Very
I
disturbing.
mean,
I think that's realistic.
Oh, that when they actually go to the ballet and you see the guys like full on dancer belt, and it was just like, oh, hello.
I had to explain what a dancer belt was to somebody. They just thought every like what is the male ballerina?
Ballerino.
Ballerina. That's what I was thinking. They just thought they had gigantic dicks, and that's what you needed to do to get into.
I mean, in a way, you kind of do.
Sure. But like big dick energy doesn't always translate into literal big dick.
Since we were talking about we're kind of jumping all over the place, but so does this movie.
Just like this movie.
The body doubles, the bizarre
body
body doubles.
doubles.
Can we finally
Yeah.
get to it?
Yay!
Yeah, so
Crazy.
this is Marnie Jahan,
Break
who's a
dancing.
French dancer and performer, and it was apparently she didn't realize that you had to actually request to be credited, and Don Simpson, Jerry
Aw.
Bruckheimer didn't credit her,
Wow.
which sucks.
That
But
sucks.
yeah, the choreographer when they saw the movie and they're like, and he felt really bad about the whole thing because and he said to her they're cheering for you. You're
Yeah.
doing this stuff, and she was like, yeah, but they don't know.
Well,
Yeah, it
they
just
kind
kind
of
of
do
sucks.
because they did not do it.
It's very obviously not Jennifer Beal.
Yeah,
like, I know we're
Marie
watching this
Jahan
and-
still performs today. It's
She better. She's awesome. Like she's
Yeah.
really, really good.
Yeah.
I really wish that they had gotten a better wig for her because that completely throws it off. Like just the hairpiece is so bad. It's
So
so
bad.
bad. And it makes it so obvious that it's not Jennifer Beals dancing that it takes. I don't think this is
Well,
like
and that was the whole argument about they wanted to
the
keep
mystery. Yeah.
the mystery of she could do it, but it's like, dude, it's obvious it's not
obviously
her.
not Jennifer Beals.
Yeah.
And they tried to do a backlit thing to kind of to do it, but it's even then it's I can see
You see
their
her face.
bodies are
Yeah.
just
That's the most obvious way to tell somebody is using a stunt double. If you're backlit the whole time or your head's down in every shot,
Yeah.
right.
there's no doubt this is not the star of the movie.
Yeah, especially when you put a really bad Brillo wig on her that doesn't move properly. It's for such dynamic dancing, for such energetic dancing, they should have done. They spend a little more money on hairstyling because it's bad.
It's like ramen.
Yeah, she's Marie Jahan is all of her scenes, she is on point. Her motions are
Perfect.
sharp.
The
Yeah.
They
dancing
are
is so
fluid.
phenomenal.
And then when you cut to the moments
The close-ups of Jennifer Beals' sweaty face.
right,
going
but
like
the
this.
close-up stuff works, but there's also stuff that Jennifer Beals does in this, but
Yeah.
it's different. You
Yeah.
see the change in the
Yep.
way that she moves. It is
Like, when
definitely
she's doing
not
this,
as clean.
they,
Yeah. And that comes from again years and years of training. But I for the effect of the motion in the movie, it still doesn't bother me because I'm just yeah, I know it's really hard not to notice this, especially in the audition scene when she's directly looking at camera and pointing.
Pointing. Hey, it's not Jennifer Beals. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole sequence is crazy. And also
Also, there's a male beatboxer when she's doing the
that's Crazy
beat
Legs,
boy.
man. Yeah.
Just a
He's talked
dude.
about that in interviews. He had to dress up in a leotard in the outfit and do the backspin. And he was
With
just
his,
with a wig.
His biceps bulging out.
Yeah. There was also a gymnast, Sharon Shapiro,
Yes, who did the
to
big
do
dive.
the big huge leap, which also this is also one of those things in figure skating where it's yeah, I know a lot of people do backflips and do it, but that's not for competition, and for good reason, because you can really fuck yourself up if you screw it up. Same with gymnasts, when they do what I think it's either on the poles or the bars. There's certain moves that's flip and then land, and they just don't do that because if you screw it up, you're basically gonna snap your neck. And watching that dive, and I'm just oh Jesus, that's the first thing in my edition. I'd be yeah, no, we don't do that here. Very impressed by you, but you're obviously in shape. You could be our trainer. But yeah, if we're looking for somebody to actually dance here, I don't know. Oh man, I think it's so strange kind of looking at it now and realize, oh yeah, that's complete total body double.
It sucks that she didn't get credit because it's
Yeah.
so it's a dance movie,
Yeah.
And
I mean, she
think
definitely
it's
got a lot of work.
Honestly, the dance scenes are the only thing that kind of like stand out about this movie. So to not give the person who's responsible for that any credit really sucks, you know?
Yeah, because I think I mentioned it. The choreographer for this is Jeffrey Hornaday. He did like Chorus Line. He was an actor in a couple of these things. He came out of like some of the Disney and ABC kind of stuff. Yeah, as a choreographer, he's been in a ton of stuff. One of my favorite bits is that he did the whole dance in Romancing the Stone with Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas in that scene when they're finally in the little town, which is like so romantic and fun. And oh yeah, this is also like one of those things that maybe that's why this movie feels like such a big win, is that you end on the big music note. And then if you think about it for half a second more, you realize how A, that relationship's not going to last, and B, she's not going to make it. And you got to treat it like a romantic comedy where it's just like,
that's it. We're done.
Okay, they got together.
Like that's it. Their life is done.
Yep. And like, that's it. God. Because otherwise, yeah, none of this stuff. Really.
Don't look at it too closely. Don't look at the screen straight on. Just kind of like turn your head to the side and do something else while this movie is playing.
Well, it's happening. They've tried to do a sequel to this, as sweet sequels and remakes and all this other stuff, because I think we should move on to that. But they just couldn't get around to actually putting it together. Jennifer Beals said absolutely not. She never wanted to come back to this.
Oh wow.
I mean, I think it would be much harder to do, because then what's your story? You know,
what's the story?
Her dropping out of ballet school.
Well,
yeah,
I think,
know.
She would be like the teacher.
Yeah, they'd be the teacher.
I guess it could be like Dirty Dancing Havana Nights.
Oh God. Where it's just completely different, and then you just shoehorn in Jennifer Beals.
And Jennifer Beals shows up and kind of waves at the camera and then leaves again.
Yeah, I guess.
That's bad.
Yeah. I don't know, because this film is so 80s.
So
from the
80s.
synth Giorgio Moroder score
to
the music video montages to
the hair, the off the shoulder.
Hair.
I mean, the off the shoulder sweatshirt became.
The looks are still great, though. I like it.
Yes, they fully come back. They fully come around.
It never went away in my book, but
also true. Like I've spent my life hunting for the off the shoulder sweatshirts. So
I just love that.
I do it to my stuff all the time. Like if something gets raggedy, I cut it off.
That's her story about it too. Is that she apparently the sweater was too small for her head, so she just chopped it off and made like a big ass hole. And it works. And the best part is like that whole bra scene. Adrian Lynn apparently had never seen a woman take off a bra in his shirt, because he saw her do it when like it's sometime in like production, and she'd been doing it forever because
all women do
quick change. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, we got to put that in the movie." And she was like, "All right."
I question any man who has not seen that by their whatever age he was, like 30s, 40s. Who's never seen a woman take off her bra through her shirt? Come on. Adrian Lynn was he was basically what's his name's age? Like 38, 39. Yeah, he was born in 41, so by that age you should have seen at least one woman take her bra off through her sleeve.
Yeah.
He's British. Maybe they don't do that.
Well, everybody does it. It's universal.
Maybe British women do it quietly in their bathrooms or something.
Also, in that sequence when she sits down with the pizza,
when
her skirt is so it's so tight she can't actually sit in it, so she has to like hike her skirt up to sit.
Been there.
And I'm like, okay. I
mean, of the relatable, that is the most relatable moment in this movie, where she can't sit down because she made poor fashion choices and her bra sucks.
I mean, amazing fashion choices.
No, okay, amazing.
From a practicality standpoint.
Impractical to live with.
Yeah. I also just like that whole scene is just so like, you want to talk about zero chemistry? Like, oh man, that whole scene where it just goes from "Don't you want some pizza?" and then
he's so drooly horny for her.
But no, it was weird because as soon as she takes the bra off, he just suddenly goes, "Oh, I gotta go."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh man."
Well, he has a boner and he doesn't have like a like folder to put over it.
Like he's 12.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah,
he's kind of, I mean, when he first meets her and
he has an ex-wife. He never saw his ex-wife pull a bra.
They had vanilla sex only with the lights off.
I don't care. That has nothing to do with sex. That's literally just being in the same room as your partner, watching them undress. That is not sexual.
I mean,
that is just someone who is oblivious.
Yeah. The ex-wife wore a fur hat inside a restaurant. Like, she's not a normal person.
Yeah,
I mean,
that the ex-wife
British?
scene. Yeah.
Was she supposed to be
Yeah,
British?
I don't know what the accent
No.
was.
Or just very, very
Yeah.
like
I think
posh,
she watched Philadelphia Story way too
Oh,
many
right.
times.
Oh,
was-
that
she was
that
she had that-
mid-Atlantic.
mid-Atlantic accent. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because Michael Nori also has that, like, you look vaguely like he's American, but like he looks always like vaguely European.
Because his
like,
teeth are all
Yeah,
fucked
he
up.
looks Italian.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He looks
His
very
family,
Italian.
I think dad was an Iraqi ambassador or something.
Okay, but yeah, it's just it's so funny because it's like I just couldn't get over the fact that it was just every time I would see them on screen, it was just like there is absolutely no reason
No.
other than the script told you to do this
Yeah.
that you two would ever be in a room together.
Well, probably because
Like,
he's like, I'm a grown ass man. What am I doing
Yes.
as a person? I'd like to give him the benefit of the
Hey,
doubt.
why did I hire an 18-year-old welder for my work?
yeah.
An 18-year-old stick-thin welder who probably can't hold up her machine.
Yeah,
I don't know.
listen,
She's doing a
it's-
pretty good job.
We've been welding.
Yeah,
Welding's
we've
not too
welded.
difficult.
If she
Welding is
can't
great.
pick up a 5-pound weight, you're telling me she
no,
can
she
weld?
could.
No,
her
no,
friend
she could do it.
couldn't.
Her friend,
Her friend
yeah.
couldn't.
I'd like to think that he, like the actor Nori, was like, he was a method actor, and he's like, what would my character even talk about with this woman? Like, what do we even say to each other?
I
And he
feel like
just-
a lot
he
of the
couldn't
conversation
get
was
there.
like
He
that.
couldn't get to that place.
The only performances where I thought they actually had any kind of like good working chemistry together are when they're yelling at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
everything else is just like that moment when she's explaining her dancer ethos to him, where he's like,
No,
"I've
that
never
was
really
the
trained."
most awkward shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
Them
was like,
walking
"What is
along
this?"
the train tracks was fine because there was no audible dialogue.
Well, also like she beat his ass flat out on a run in those stilettos
I mean,
on jagged, rocky ground.
I mean, all
In
she's
his
doing is
defense-
dancing though in those stilettos. So
in
Yeah.
his defense, he just had his first colonoscopy because he's that age.
That's why he's winded when he comes upstairs. God,
Well done, Bryce. Well done.
that was really well done, Bryce.
like again, I don't get like
also,
why-
Bryce, you are a better comedian than Richie.
Without being super racist
Mhm.
Yeah.
somehow.
Speaking of which, Mel Gibson was apparently courted for that role.
Boo.
Ah,
Yeah, he was.
Boo.
for the role of who?
For
Michael
the role
Hurley.
of Nick Hurley. Yeah, the other part. It's just I don't know. Like Gene Simmons is also like on that list.
From Kiss?
Yeah.
What?
I think a lot of this was like again, they went through so many women.
Just like stunt casting.
I mean, some of it makes sense to me when you get Richard Gere because like that
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
totally would
sure,
have made
totally.
sense.
Richard Gere makes sense. Yeah.
Because like this is right after American Gigolo
The
and
officer and a
like,
gentleman.
yeah, and so you get like he's also like he's still like older, significantly older, but he looks younger than he was.
He wouldn't have been as old. He wasn't in
Yeah.
his late 30s.
Same with Kevin Costner. Like Kevin Costner would have looked at least pretty age appropriate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then I think that's the difficulty of like, how is this guy so rich and own a steel company? And I
Right.
was like, you fix that. He inherited it.
Yeah, I was about to say if it were made now, he would be someone who inherited it from daddy.
Yeah, but
And
they
he has
wanted to.
daddy issues, which would actually flesh out
But
his
then they
character a
wouldn't
bit.
have. then
Yeah.
they wouldn't- The only thing that the two of them have in common is that they're like both from lower class upbringing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and Johnny
The
C
only
tells
thing
him
they
that it's like, yeah, this ain't your neighborhood anymore, and it's
Right.
like, all right. I was driving the Porsche.
I know nothing about Altoona, Pennsylvania. I'm sure it's a very nice place.
Apparently,
It's
it's
very farmy.
next to Saturn or Jupiter or whatever
Right.
she says. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if I can recommend this because it's not a movie.
No,
It's
I
a
can
series
recommend-
of YouTube clips. Yes,
Yeah,
I can
100%.
recommend it
Yeah.
as like a compilation of YouTube clips.
Yes,
Like, I
watch the
I
dance
like the
scenes.
look.
Yeah.
I like the feel. I love Jennifer Beals in this. She's
Jennifer
literally
Beals is so great.
Yeah.
I
Like-
do think they could make a much more successful version of it now.
oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this was again the number
No,
3
not
movie.
financially successful. I mean,
Oh.
like
Like
critically,
artistically. Yeah.
artistically successful. They could do a much better job with
Yeah,
it. now.
Roger Ebert did not like this movie.
No,
I mean, you
a
can
lot of
watch
people
it
did not
now,
like this movie.
but you just only pay attention when music starts.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah, basically.
ignore everything.
Which is pretty much what I did.
Maybe turn the sound off. Is there a way that you could turn like
just
the
just the
dialogue off?
music. Yeah.
Just the dialogue off, like a reverse subtitle kind of thing. So like it doesn't do any of the dialogue, but you have like the
called the mute button.
It's like
Yeah.
like
I know, but
Cabin
you only hear
Fever
the
has
music.
the PG
The
cut.
girly vision. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So they need that, like the music cut.
Just the
for this
montage
movie.
cut.
Music
Yeah.
cut. Yeah, that's what you want.
It'd still be like 80 minutes.
Sure.
So long.
But then it takes out all the problematic 15 minutes of shit.
Yeah, you don't need
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have to sit through that god awful stand-up bit.
No.
It's
Ever
so
again.
bad.
I
like-
forgot. I completely
that he
forgot how
comes
awful that
around
is.
And
and
it
then
means
he
nothing.
laughs at himself.
Oh, the laugh
It
is
means
bad,
nothing.
too.
That character leaves and then he comes back. Nothing was
Oh no,
or lost.
he
No.
comes back and then realizes that the girl that he loves is now dating the,
Scumbag.
the scumbag.
Sexual assaulter.
Yeah, and then it's just like,
But what relevance
that's
does
it,
that have
bye-bye.
to anything else in the movie?
Nope.
Like
Nothing.
honestly, you could take
Right.
out 90% of the characters and they have nothing to do with this movie.
If they could
Yep.
replace 90% of the characters with more of the dog,
Yep.
it would be such a better movie.
I would watch a
Fully
movie just
aligned.
with her and the dog.
her, the grunt.
Flashdance with
Oh,
dogs.
and the woman
That
who
was the
did
weirdest
the
bark.
man
Why does he
hunter.
have such a high pitched chihuahua bark coming out of
Oh, it's so cute.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard Echo bark, but she sounds like a pigeon. So that was believable to me.
I mean, I met a dog today and it was delightful. More dogs, please.
Yeah.
dogs?
More
Just in
dogs.
general, guys, more dogs.
Yeah.
Just in
I
general.
did like it, that the opening shot of this is her petting a cat, so you get both cats and dogs.
There you go.
Yay. Everyone should be happy.
Everybody's happy.
She's an animal
So
lover.
cut all the dudes out of this movie and
Cut all the
replace
dudes
them
and
with
replace them with dogs.
So pro Jennifer Beals, pro Irene Cara,
Yeah.
pro dog. Everything else, anti.
Everything else boo.
Yeah.
No, I mean the Jojo Moroder's.
Oh,
pretty solid.
also woman who did the Manhunter dance.
She's
And the
great.
woman
Oh
who
yeah,
did the
she was
Manhunter.
great.
That
Yeah.
dance routine would be huge on TikTok right now.
Hmm.
It would be huge.
I love it.
Huge.
Yeah.
Put it on TikTok. Do
I
it.
mean, I
Helen.
guess
Get
that's
all the views.
what it comes down to is that I guess it is like the Irene Cara song where it's like this is all just feeling. Like this whole movie is just one big
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
What a feeling.
What a feeling.
Sorry.
That's it.
That's it.
That's how we're getting out.
Move my legs really fast
Her-
and shake my head.
Her maniac dancing is essentially how I walk.